Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we have on Andy Timmons. How are you, man?
I'm good. Good to be back with you, man.
I'm glad we can do this again. Yeah, last time we spoke, we talked about some of your other older albums, and it was kind of catch up. It was during the plague,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
there's a lot of podcasts flowing around, and I appreciate you finding time for me. And as
Yeah,
a youngin podcast, I've
yeah.
since then grown a little bit, but
Good, good,
as a
good.
show, so I'm still here. So new album,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
you've got a lot of stuff that you're like doing. I mean, you've got like guitar things and you've got different models of guitars and
yeah.
pedals and amps. I mean, you got a lot. Let's start
Yeah,
with the music though. Let's start with the new album, Recovery.
yeah. That is usually the point, though. That it's all to serve just making music. Hopefully, But thank you for
Oh, man.
checking it out. If you did, I hope you did.
I do, and I'm also, as you can see, I'm a big Ibanez fan too. So
Oh, there you go. Okay.
my two favorite are Ibanez and Aria Pro. So
Ah,
let's talk about the album. I dig it. I've been checking it out.
me
People
too.
don't know it came out February 14th, right?
February
14th or
14th. Yeah.
Valentine's Day, right?
It was exactly valid. Not necessarily, I wasn't trying to coordinate it for that particular date, but it just happened to be the day before we left for the Friday before we left for Italy, and it was to be coordinated with that tour. So Friday
Okay.
just happened to be Friday the 14th of February. It happened to be the birthday of this guitar. This guitar was built on February 14th,
Really?
1994. Yeah, so it's his
Wow.
31st birthday, man. It's been around a minute.
It's still younger than us, though. It
Yes.
we can still say, man, wow, that was your age. Um, actually, where are you right now? Are you home? Are you getting ready?
Yeah,
Are you going
I'm in
to
my home
Tokyo?
studio. This is my home studio in McKinney, Texas. So this is what I do on my during the pandemic. I started doing a lot of live stream concerts on stage, and I still do them occasionally on that platform. It's been a great way to reach people all over, and that everybody can get together. In the pandemic, we couldn't physically be together, so
No.
it was the only way we had. But it's really kind of carried on to be a really cool platform to connect with people that maybe you wouldn't necessarily get to go tour in front of. They can come to my house.
Well, I mean, but you were doing probably more lessons back then too than now because you're touring and stuff, weren't you? You were teaching online some stuff.
Not well. I have an ongoing subscription service at
That's what I meant. Sorry. Yeah.
guitarexperience.net. So yeah, I will do occasional one-on-one stuff, but I've been tending to prefer to just record, all the ideas behind each song and document that way if I'm going to spend the time teaching. That way it's there, and people can access it. I do enjoy teaching one-on-one, but it's just a matter of time management and, just trying to be productive musically. But over the years, really grew into somebody that really enjoys teaching. I think that early on, I didn't feel necessarily like I had a lot to impart, but that
Hmm.
wasn't the case. I just had to figure out
How to
how
bring
to
it up.
communicate a lot of things that, I'm pretty together as far as, theory and all that that I learned eventually. But there's a lot of things that evolved in what I do that I'm not thinking about. They just kind of evolved naturally. But there's obviously ways of figuring out, how to break it down, how to teach it, and I really enjoy the process. So, but you can
Do you think
get
it helps you? Like in a way, I'm
oh
trying to
God,
make something good.
it
Like is because you're like, you know what? Geez, as I'm telling him to do that, I catch myself doing that. Like because it's
yeah.
like reinforcement. You know what I'm saying? Is that a thing?
It's a big thing. It's infinitely beneficial to me because I'll find these ideas, that maybe I either developed or improvised in the moment and then never, really figured out all the different permutations of what I could do with that particular idea. So, like anything else, if you're a practicing musician, you can take an
Yeah.
idea and then extrapolate it in all different ways and different registers, different keys, and try to incorporate, different versions of that same idea. So there's always so much to draw from, even if it's not saying I've got this infinite amount of ideas, but there's always things that you can further expand on. And so yeah, there's just not enough time. It's like just choose things it's like with anything that I've ever taken the time to develop. It's like if it has to strike me a certain way for me to want to then sit down and like, okay, what else can I do here, or how can I make this into a song, or how can I develop this further? So it's just really that editing process along the way that turns us into the musician, artist, player that we become.
Well, I think what's interesting about you is you really become such a come full circle, and like a full service guitar player. And you've
Mm.
been like that for a while, but it's easier to look back now and be like where you came from, Danger Danger, and then doing this and
Yeah,
that, and then you start doing some like bluesy or rock. Like you
yeah,
go to bands, you do some Beatles things. you kind
Yeah.
of branched out to all the different things you did. There wasn't really a stamp you could put on you anymore for a while.
Yeah.
I do think this album reflects a lot of different influences. Could it be just me? I'm
Yeah.
hearing different things in it because I've listened to all your other albums.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it's got a little of everything in you, this one.
Yeah. And maybe
I don't know
so.
if you feel that way.
No, for sure. I think, depending on which record we go back to look at, there's some of them are very much snapshot of me in that moment, whatever it might be. The Bossa Nova record, clearly I was going down a path there that was fun, and the Beatles thing was just a kind of a fun hobby I had for a while, developing arrangements of power trio Beatle tunes. But throughout all of it, there's a thread of just trying to write a good song, trying to improve as a player. If people know me from Danger Danger, there was quite a bit of life before that. I've been playing
Oh
for
yeah.
10 years or so, 15 years before that. So there's lots of different phases of different music. I'm primarily a rock player, clearly, and I think this record, compared to Electric Truth, which was maybe a bit more R&B blues influence, because I was
Yeah.
working with Josh Smith, I purposely kind of went that direction. But this one is more. It's a very personal record, as far as the subject matter of all the songs. They're very purposeful, and I just tried to play them in the way that I thought they needed to be played, regardless of thinking about influence or genre. But it's real. I think that's the
Hmm.
the main thing for me personally as an artist. I just want things that I release to be authentic and not contrived in any way based on anybody else's preconceptions, including my own, of what I should be doing. I like to write music that's in a particular moment emotionally. Sometimes there is music just written for music's sake, but a lot of this record tends to be very, very specific as far as what it means to me. The beauty of the instrumental genre is that it can mean anything that the listener needs it to mean. There's the ballads will have a certain evocative thing. The higher energy tunes might produce a particular feeling, and I might have a very specific intention behind it. But it's not constricted to written language and vocabulary. I think the well played note can go much deeper than the written word.
For song titles, when you do that, because it's personal for you, are you
Mm.
like, oh, that song title's a little too personal? I'm gonna
Well,
polish it up a little bit so it's more generic for everybody. So it's not. I don't really want that much out there for that. You know what I'm saying? I like because with the no lyrics, you can name anything you want. That's kind of the fun part of it.
yeah, for sure. But if I just go down, Elegy for Jeff is pretty obvious because it's for Jeff Beck. Recovery means a lot in my life, and I think it's a healing word and healing idea, and on so many levels, it's deep. And I know that everybody can relate to it in their own way. Love is greater than hate. It's the eternal struggle of good and evil. Uh, where did you
Good time.
go?
Good time for that song right now in the past 10 years.
I would think so. I would think so. Um, and see, love is great. Yeah. So where did you go is very personal for me because sometimes I can disappear. So it's like where did I go? Pretty much. Um, why must it be so? Is again a very personal, very deep thought on my end. Life shouldn't be so hard. Treating people with dignity and respect and empathy, shouldn't be such a thing of difficulty. Being good to each other. Um, Arizona Sunset is a kind of a love letter to my family. I was born in Arizona. I moved to Indiana when I was 5, but my mother, father, who are both gone, and one out of 3 of my older brothers are gone. So it's kind of feels like the sun is setting, on the family, and it's kind of a nice little ode to all my early memories are, mountains and cactus and beautiful
Those are
sunsets. Yeah.
those are good memories. I mean, especially as
No,
we
very much
get
so.
this point in life, not be a bummer, but I mean,
No.
remember when you were younger and we were like, and I know, I was like, just like, oh, if I go to one more wedding, if I have to go to one more birth for somebody's thing, and
Yeah.
now I'm like, I would love to see a birth because I feel like I'll go to his deaths now. Like there's like a also there's like
Yeah.
a hard cutoff line where people just
Yeah.
start dying and not getting married or being born.
There is, well, it is the cycle of life, and it's just kind of, it is part of the deal. But yeah, that we are, yeah, I'm 61 now. So yeah, the more you live, the more you're going to experience all these things. So, but it's good, we have to go through it. We have to acknowledge yeah, there's been a lot of songs that I've written for those occasions, to be honest. Some for births, some for a lot of elegies,
Well,
a lot of tunes for people that have passed or pets, people's
mhm.
pets is a heavy thing too,
You're one of the things you're good about is showing respect, obviously, for Jeff, for Jeff, or your love for the Beatles. And then
Mm.
actually, I was just watching recently your Peter Frampton.
Ah, yeah,
If we could actually touch on that, how that came about, because
sure.
that's pretty cool. I mean, it's Peter Frampton, man.
No, dude. So, well, I had I keep referencing my older brother. So,
That's good.
born in 1963. I had three older brothers, and we're all 4 years apart. So, my exposure to a lot of music was, pretty advanced compared to a lot of other people that if they didn't have those older brothers or older siblings,
Right.
So my brother Mark, who was 12 in 63, buying all the 60s British Invasion, Beatles, Dave Clark Five, Kinks, etc. My brother John, 8 years my older, when in the late 60s, early 70s, he was buying, he got into Humble Pie and then Frampton's Camel and all the early Frampton records. So, Peter's sound, his songwriting, his melodic instincts were very much a part of my playing and my upbringing, And I'd gone to see him. So in about 2007, the drummer in my band, Dan Wojciechowski, had the opportunity to work with Peter and became Peter's drummer. And so we kind of had a connection in that way. And I would go to shows occasionally and see Dan play with Peter. So he came through in 2019, just before the pandemic, and I went to the show that night and was just reminded of all the beauty and because he's such a great player and really
Mhm.
sweet human being. And I wrote this kind of tune, that was eventually called "The Boy from Beckenham," and sat on it. And my band hadn't recorded it, but I got asked to do a recording workshop at Sweetwater Music. They have a great suite of recording studios in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Yeah, come up and you can record a couple of tunes and people sit in and get to watch your process. And so
Okay.
I picked a couple of songs that my band probably wasn't going to do, and Boy from Beckenham was one of them. They have a great house band, Nick DiVirgilio, who's been playing with Mr. Big, great drummer,
Yep.
David Martin on the bass, and we recorded the song. I just didn't record the solo. And fast forward to a couple years later, my wife and I wanted to go somewhere for my birthday. It was my birthday coming up July 26th. We never go on vacations. It's always usually work related. Hey, I'm gonna be in this town. Let's go here. Um, but we couldn't figure out a beach or somewhere to go. So she just said, find somebody that's playing on your birthday and we'll fly and we'll go there. Great. Well, it turns out Peter Frampton was playing in Long Island in New York, and we love going to New York City. So all right, let's go to New York City, see Peter, and of course, with the luxury of having met him and knowing the crew, and now two of his band
Mhm.
members are old band members of mine. Allison Presswood plays bass with him now. That both
Wow.
Dan and Allison were the rhythm section when I was Olivia Newton-John's music director on the first several tours that I did with her. They were the rhythm section. So Peter Frampton's rhythm section is Olivia Newton-John's rhythm section right now. Fun fact. But anyway, that night, I had recorded that tune, and now Peter's obviously dealing with some health issues. He has a myotisis, which is a muscular degenerative disease. So he's still touring and playing, but he sits when he plays. He no longer can stand when he plays. So I'm aware of his physical, you know, obstacles, but I thought, you know what? I'm just going to ask him anyway. And I asked if he,
That's a good word. I wouldn't say limitations because I don't think he has limitations yet. He has obstacles and challenges, but not
it's,
limitations.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a better word. You're right. So
Yeah, I thought that was a really good word you used.
thank you. I choose them carefully. Well, sometimes,
Not
but
me. I just
yeah.
throw it out there against the wall.
No, so very timidly, but I said, Peter, I've got this tune I wrote very much in honor of you. Would you have any inclination of playing a solo on it? He goes, absolutely. He like lit up and like thought, oh yeah. So I sent him the track the next day, and he's like, I love it. I'll let you know. I'll get to it when I can. He was still doing tour dates, and so anyway, long story short, he got around to it and played the most beautiful solo, and I was
Oh, it
just
is.
so blown away. And his keyboard player, Rob Arthur, just happens to be an amazing videographer. So,
Mhm.
these days you make videos and collaborate that way. So
Chop it together.
he filmed us him playing his solo at the studio. And I was going to do the same thing here, which I've done a lot of videos in this space. But his video looks so great, and I just thought, man, mine's going to look kind of lame comparatively. But I thought, what if we could get like a montage of all footage from his career and really celebrate, Peter's career, and then the solo comes and there he is. well, let's just say it wasn't cheap to do that because we thought we had access to the archives, but a lot of the
Oh.
footage was owned by other companies. But we
Which
don't.
as an artist makes sense to you. I mean, how much do you really own of parts of your career, really,
That's the
looking
thing.
back?
It's interesting. Anyway, long story short, but we'd already done an edit. Rob had done an edit. It's like I can't go
Yeah.
back. This is so great. So it was a little expensive to do, but again, it's like so many things in my career. If I did it because I thought it was going to make money, or it can't be about that. It has to be a labor of love. And this was purely that. It was just me wanting to pay tribute to who I think is just one of the great guitar player and artists of our pop history. I've always loved his playing, but he really has a unique, when I say voice, just the way he writes and the way he thinks musically. I'm gonna take a drink here because I got
Go.
a little raspy something. I love Peter and was so thrilled that we got to collaborate on that, and I'll always be immensely proud of that video and that song and
It's a good song too. It's a good video. I
thank you,
enjoyed it.
getting to celebrate. Yeah, and I totally wrote those chords for that solo, thinking of the way he writes, and when he heard that section, oh yeah, this is gonna be good. So he understood the assignment and resonated with it. So
I encourage everybody to check it out. Of course, I
thank
want
you.
everybody to check out your album too. But while we're talking about that, I mean, it does
Yeah.
that does need some love for that. Um, well, it's really interesting. Well, you are on your own though known for being such a melodic, heartfelt player. I
Hmm.
mean, you got the rock riffs. Those are your two things. You always got, you can deliver the big rock riffs,
Yeah.
but you can really pull on the heartstrings. I
Thank
mean,
you, man.
yeah, you're welcome. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
like Electric Gypsy is everybody has a signature song. To get to a certain point in life where you have a signature song that
Yeah.
no one's written anything like, and that's every
Mm.
guitarist I think would want it. It's almost like if you have one hit wonder for some people, for guitarists to have that one song that people don't. If everybody knows you by one song, even if they're not a guitarist, they go, "Oh, I've heard that song." You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Wow.
Because it's so special,
Ah.
and it's really just the tipping point where people can go, "You like that? Well, then you're gonna like this." You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
It's really
Hopefully.
of an entry gateway drug because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it's very it's showing of all your other playing, but obviously it became popular. But
Yeah.
it's very telling of who you are as a musician.
Well, thank you, man.
You
Yeah,
know,
and again, just a riff that happened in a jam session with my housemate drummer. I was in Danger, and I was living in New York, in Flushing, Queens, and yeah, I was reading a book about Hendrix called Electric Gypsy. Where did I get the title? The riff just kind of came, and I recognized, okay, but I'm going to develop this. Then when I would come back to visit Texas in between
yeah.
Danger stuff, worked it up with my band, and yeah, it instantly, became and it's still a favorite to play for us. So sorry, this is going to be the coughing interview. My apologies.
That's okay. Well, I mean, it has so many great parts to it. Where it goes from one to the other. Just pulls and just it's so many. It's a very powerful song.
Thank you.
But you are that guy that does very powerful melodic melodies.
Trying.
Well, I think you
Yeah.
do a good for a job at this point. I mean, well, especially because I think when you said you did the Beatles thing for a while, you did
Mm,
the album.
yeah.
I mean, by playing anything, I think one time that like, a lot of artists that go, well, in the '80s, you didn't. Like some people go like, I didn't get to go to music school. I was in bands and I left and I
Yeah.
went to Hollywood. I did this and that, and I did
Hmm.
all the cover songs and the tours. I'm like, well, that kind of is rock and roll college because if you're playing other
Sure.
songs,
Yeah.
you're really paying attention. You're not
Hmm.
just punking it
Yeah.
out.
Sure.
You're actually learning songwriting. You're from great
Yeah.
artists. Like there
Yeah.
are things you can learn about people and personality. So there is a schooling there.
Hmm.
And you've seemed to really got a good hold on melody. Well, you don't
Yeah.
sound like
Thank
the Beatles by any means, but I think it's definitely
Right.
imprinted in you. But you've always had
Yeah.
it, even in your solo back from from Danger. I mean, you've always had that.
Well, I mean, the Beatles were my from the crib. This wasn't something I did when I
Right.
dabbled in Sergeant Pepper. That was, I was able to do that because it was so ingrained in me. And by that time had gotten into, because of the Resolution record where we did a record without overdubs, and I had to play chord and melody and really represent songs in a linear fashion without overdubs.
Hmm.
Then it became fun to start to dabble in, well, how would I play these other songs? I'd had that arrangement of Strawberry Fields and was playing it on a tour in Italy. And then the promoter was like, "Man, you should do a whole night of Beatles stuff." I'm like, "Oh man, there's no way." But that's what kind of got that wheel turning a little bit. But yeah, it's evolution at every point because I couldn't have done the Sergeant Pepper record had I not decided to do the Resolution record like we did and let go of any overdubs and have this, one cohesive guitar performance. It
Right.
really kicked my butt in a way that, elevated my playing. And again, hopefully that's the idea behind everything. You keep growing, you keep evolving. But now especially, at every step of the way, I'm just trying to write good songs and just try to keep always happy that there's old tunes that people want to hear that I love playing every night. Electric Gypsy,
Right.
Cry for You,
Yep. Another one.
some of those tunes. If it's a good
I
song,
was
you never get tired of.
There's a lot of good songs. I was just using now. It's always easier to use the more popular because a lot of people may not know your whole
Sure.
catalog.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
For me, it's always a talking point. But I could, yeah, there are a lot. You have a lot of good songs. You could just spend a whole night listening to.
Oh no, for sure, for
But
sure.
as
But
but as an artist, I mean, the challenge is for you to be excited about it still and want to play new music too at the same time
oh God,
and
well,
be
yeah.
appreciative of the old stuff.
I've been blessed that it's not like a pop career where, oh man, I got to sing Let's Get Physical again tonight. It's, whatever, insert whatever hit, because that was the thing with Olivia. That was her least favorite tune. She didn't even want to record it when she did it. It became, number one for 10 weeks. But there's nothing like that in my
That song
catalog.
had a good melody though. I think the lyrics were pretty hokey, but man, that
Well,
had a great melody.
that's the thing. She wasn't
Yeah,
happy lyrically, and that's why
it
she
was
took the
awful.
video where she went, with that hokey
Yeah,
workout. Well, let's just say it served her well, and
yeah.
we did have a good time playing it every night. So, not to
Yeah,
not
why
to
not?
not to denigrate there, but
No way.
only to say that no, I'm more excited now than ever you know, I think Paul McCartney gets up every day and he just would love to write a good song today. It's like not comparing myself. I'm just saying I don't think that
No, no,
desire
no.
ever goes away. Um, but it is, and you very much touched on the 80s rock guys that were learning songs and that was their college, but it was the exact same thing for the Beatles. That's why Lennon and
Right.
McCartney and eventually George were such great songwriters because they learned all those tunes, all the cover tunes.
Good.
But
Yeah.
beyond Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly, they were learning show tunes. Till There Was You and all these things with chord changes. And all that became their RLect, I like to call it. I did a course on where does melody come from for True Fire called Melodic Muse. I had to kind of try to figure out how I explain where things come from for me. And it kind of led me to study and realize, well, it's because we just learned all these things by ear. It's ingrained a certain way.
Mhm.
And that's what we draw upon. I think as an improviser or as a songwriter, we're trying to create something that we want to hear. It's very selfish. They're trying to write a song that they think is great that they want to hear. Or I might try to play a solo.
Yeah.
I'm trying to live up to the great things that I've experienced, be it a great guitar solo or a great melody or a great tone.
Mhm.
We form these ideas in kind of a library in our consciousness or subconsciousness too that we're striving for, and that's the beautiful thing. We may never reach. I may never write a melody as good as God only knows, and my tone may never be as good as Hendrix on XYZ, but man, let's reach for it. Let's try, and make that effort. And just, but if it's coming out as us, that's the real thing. If it can be authentic.
Do you think that because the usually pedestrian questions are like, when did you start playing guitar?
Yeah.
But do you think because you started playing guitar at a young age, you listen to music differently? Like I started playing guitar. I'm
Hmm.
54 now.
Yeah.
Probably in my mid to late 40s, I started picking up the guitar.
Nice.
Because luckily they were for YouTube and stuff, and I have autism, so visually it allowed me to affordably see the chords over and over again.
Oh, sure.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
guitar player teachers want to hear you the same thing week after week. I mean, I can be so the redundancy in the saving
Yeah.
this the poor soul to the guitar teacher. But because of that, going in and listening to songs, I started going back and hearing songs and going, oh, like I'm so overhearing a song, and I always use the Eagles. But then
Yeah.
you play it and you're like, oh, these chords.
Yeah.
Um,
For
and
sure.
so
For sure.
there's a compliment in there, people that are big Eagles fans. The point is, like, you
Yeah.
hear so much on the radio, you get burned down, and you don't appreciate it, and it gives
Oh,
you a new life. Do you think playing guitar always gave you a different perspective to songwriting that maybe
maybe. Yeah. That's
you,
that's that,
a lot of people don't have?
that's a very good question. So hard for me to gauge because I wouldn't have been conscious of it. It was just happening, inside me and around me. But definitely, I mean, I've led a very, very musical life, even subconsciously. If I'm walking down the street,
Mhm.
there's a groove in my head. I'm probably walking in time to that groove and subdivide. I mean, I always had rhythm happening in my body or melodies happening. I'm just clearly listening to music. I'll be uber focused on guitar, but you're also you might be thinking about the chord progression or trying to analyze in that way. But fortunately, I didn't get too analytical. I can still hear music as music and not a compartmentalized thing that I need to analyze.
That's a good point because
I can
I
do
know
that.
people that can't do that. I know
Yes, well, there's,
musicians
you
that
know,
can't do that anymore.
okay, well, that's something I'm thankful or hopeful that I never lose, you
That
know.
would be hard, yeah, for me too.
I can switch that gear for whatever reason. I can just let the music be the music, or I can switch the gear, get in and put on the microscope glasses or
Mhm.
whatever, and get in there and see what I can do, which is very handy. I mean, to do it with the instrument in hand, without the instrument in hand, but it's good to make the effort to do all those things, I think, for learning
I,
purposes.
I mean, it makes sense, and I think that to me, the other part of that would be so someone like me or anybody who starts learning guitar later on in life, and
Mm,
you've always thought musical more or less, just like a singer that doesn't play guitar writes a lot of melodies and always writing poems
yeah,
or lyrics, or
yeah,
a drummer's always that guy beating on stuff in the desk through high school. You know what I'm saying?
sure.
But if you're like a guitar player, songwriter, you got a little more going on. You're thinking of this, the melody, or kind of think of
Mm,
everything.
yeah.
But then you have a student come in, and this made me think about what you said about like where does the song come from?
Mm,
Somebody's coming in not thinking like that, fresh. Now you've got
yeah,
that musical language all these years, so it's almost a
yeah,
lot for somebody new to come in to try to even wrap their head around what it's like for somebody who can think in music
yeah,
already
yeah,
to just pick up the instrument and make a chord, make a sound,
yeah,
and understand what it really means. Because it's
yeah.
what I've learned, it means totally different from when I first started playing guitar. I'm still
Sure.
horrible, but it means something totally different the way it
Right.
all works. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Is there a question here?
I think well to
I don't
that
know.
was yeah. Did
Yeah.
you find that actually? This is getting a long, very long
Yeah.
winded. Make a
That's
short
okay.
point long.
That's okay.
Did you come across that maybe in your own way when trying to like present that like in the True Fire or in your teaching courses like to translate like what you know to almost like layman's terms so people
Yeah.
can appreciate it.
Yeah, there's always so many ways of kind of analyzing things that you can think of that you've done, meaning, that there might have been a conscious
Mhm.
process, but there's a lot of what I do that there's not. Um, where, I can be practicing and I'll recognize maybe something that I just improvised or a couple of chords that maybe I hadn't put together in such a way. And then I just try to um, explore that and just see if it's something, and then just try to let my ear guide me. And it's kind of a combination of those things that we talked about as far as the aurelect. And, if I hear, let me just I'll just improvise an example.
Yeah.
So I just went from a C major 7 to a C sharp. I wanted to hear that melody. It's very standard, but that chord really wants to go somewhere. So I did, you know. It's kind of a process. It's almost like a game. If this, then that. So
Mhm.
if I'm on an A minor chord and I play the note D, okay, that really wants to go somewhere because it's not a chord tone. I needed to have that resolution. If I would have played the root, well, I don't necessarily have to do anything, and I'm not that moved to do so because I'm already home. But if I played the B, so I just let my ear guide me to things that I wanted to hear.
Mhm.
I played that 9. It's cry for you in A, basically. uh, I mean, it really
But
is.
you know it sounds good though in certain chordings. I mean, you know certain areas that are safer spots to
I
play
can
for
hear it.
solos.
I can
You're
hear.
not, yeah, you're not jumping off like a newer guitar player that maybe good with their hands that doesn't know what's right
That's
or
true.
wrong, and
That's
they're
true.
kind of noodling out. And not just you. That's the difference of a really good guitar player that already
But there's
knows
two
the
different
field.
there's two different knowledges there, and that's why I came up with the term arlect. There's intellect, I know
Okay.
that that B is the second of A minor if I play the A minor, and I know that it wants to resolve and blah 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 blah. I can have that process, or my ear can go, there was no thought, there was instinct.
Hmm.
And that's the
Right.
oralect. So intellect, oralect, I know it's kind of cheesy, but the intellect of the ear and
No, but I'll hit you some weird questions today too. It's just
it's some
how I go.
instinct. No, but this is it's a great point. But sometimes it's hard to explain instinct. But that is the best that I could do as far as, but it's a combination of all those things where you're eliminating your conscious thought as a necessity, meaning, we don't always have to, well, hopefully we can get to a point where we're not having to completely thought process this out. It can be done, but it's not going to feel as natural and as, I don't know, in the moment as if it becomes an extension of our ear.
I think it's
So,
important. I bring up, sorry,
that's
is
good.
that
You're fine.
things like that are important because obviously a lot of guitar players are going to watch this
Hmm.
and they know that, they need to know that. Not every
Hmm.
guitar player, they go on tour, they don't play for months on end. They're not sure to get some guitarists play every day, whether they're on tour or not. Some
Yeah,
guitar players can read music. Some can't. That's some of the best
sure.
guitar players in the world I know cannot read a thing of music.
Well, sure.
Like,
Yeah.
but my one, I think every guitarist doesn't think, oh man, I can't read music. I can play this. I'm the worst. I can't. Like, no, 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 you're not.
Yeah.
I'm trying to explain it.
Hmm.
All these different things, there are different ways of getting to the goalpost.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it shows just by your technique where your education level is, though, by how you can root out your notes, how you know where to go.
Yeah.
That shows just a different level of your education, though, I think, of your skill set.
Yeah. And I don't know that it would be drastically different if we extracted the specific education because a lot of those instincts would have been developed just from the gigs.
You wouldn't probably know the notes, though,
I no, I
as well,
disagree.
maybe.
Well, no,
Okay.
I disagree because, even when I was learning Kiss songs, well,
Yeah.
I by knowing the names of the roots, I knew if I knew a power chord, that's a
Okay.
G,
That's good.
that's a
Yeah, that's who
C.
you are. Something because some artists wouldn't know, they would just learn the shapes and that would be it.
And
You'd be,
completely valid. And that would be my son right now, where maybe
yeah,
he couldn't tell you the names of the notes, but he can play the heck out of what he knows, and
right.
it's killer. So I think each individual player has to gauge and recognize who they are because Stevie Ray, I'm pretty sure didn't know how to read, probably couldn't tell you a lot about theory, and perhaps didn't, know every scale and every mode. How important was that to him making some of the greatest music ever? Zero. You
Probably had the strongest fingers in the world, too. I've heard his strings would be hardest to press down on that heavy guitar neck of his.
Yeah, he either played 12s or 13. Pick up Josh
Yeah.
Smith's guitar. Next time you see Josh, ask him to play his guitar, and you'll have a similar experience to what it would have been like to play
Really?
Stevie's. Yeah, he uses 13s or 12s on the top, but Josh is tuned to normal
That is
pitch.
crazy.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's hard to make treble with those with that kind of heavy string. I
It's like
try.
Mr. Burns on The Simpsons. You're like, Smithers,
Yeah,
Harold Wig.
but it's each to what they find to produce what they want to do. So I that's the one thing I instill in a lot of players that can be very overwhelmed with the amount of material available online. You don't have to know all of it. Just learn some very simple things, play those really really well, and expand from there. But it's the foundations that are important, not how much you know. That's just going to overwhelm your brain. Keep it simple, but really do the simple things a lot to where they become natural and then start to branch out from there. It's probably the best advice I can give to anybody
I
for
think that's great. I thank
any
you for doing
walk
that.
of
I mean,
life.
think it's
Yeah.
important because I do get a lot of guitar fans. I think sometimes these talks, these kind of things aren't out there as much for just, what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Right.
For people to kind of feel okay about themselves. Like, there's always a beatdown of, do you learn a metronome? Do you practice on that first? Right out of the gate. Some people say you need to do it, but I think it
Yeah.
throws off a lot of people. To me,
Mm.
in the beginning, it threw me off. It was just too
Yeah.
much. I got to
Yeah.
it eventually, but in the
Yeah.
beginning, I almost had
Yeah.
to wait. That was me
Yeah.
though.
Again, now it's usually drum machine, not metronome, but the record
Or
player was
anything.
the record player was my metronome. I didn't think about all these things. I learned a song and played music first and foremost, always. And that's really the only important thing, you know.
Yeah.
All this, the minutia and things that we can analyze on, countless videos on YouTube it can help, but it can also overwhelm. So just, man, have fun and play some music. Start there and don't get too overwhelmed with all this other stuff. When
That's awesome. Thank you.
the more time you spend, you can start to introduce and start to branch out. Um, yeah.
No, I thank you because I mean
Yeah.
that is to me that's what I hear. I hear a very relaxed. in the pocket player with you, like
Wow.
from his, your the melody of electric gypsy to that, like it just flows. It's not like a 1 2 1 2. It's a groove.
Hopefully,
You know what I'm
hopefully,
saying?
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
No, for
obviously it
sure.
is. But for people listening, I mean, in all your music, of the different types, the mambo, whatever, all the different albums you've done,
Yeah.
it's a feeling.
Thank you, man.
Always got a feeling. You're
Thank you.
welcome. I'm sure like to machine is probably perfectly musically too if you sit down in the studio. I'm sure it's not like all over the
Well,
place either by any means,
the
but
th the
I'm saying
thing,
there's a feel that I hear
yeah. And well,
on the top.
thank you. That's an ultimate compliment. And I, for whatever reason, the players that I gravitated towards, I bring up Steve Lukather a lot, but Larry Carlton and Pat Metheny and Robin Ford and Mike Stern.
Hmm.
The common bond between all of them is that their time is so ingrained and so strong. They're not tied to it. It's there for them to use as a guidepost, but it helps them and is what helps me very specifically choose where I'm going to place that note within the scope of a metronomic beat. And that's where a lot of emotion can come from. Because if you play, yeah, same exact time, the same groove was happening throughout all those phrases. One I played exactly on the beat, and one I just slid around it to how I wanted to feel in the moment, And so, but that, I was also that guy in school drumming on the desk. There was always groove happening in me. So when I would get on the instrument, I had all this, that was all this other practice time. Even if I'm just tapping my foot to music while it's happening, I'm participating, and that's helping me eventually when I get on my instrument.
Do you
Things
play
are,
drums at all?
I do. If I would pan over, you'd see an old set of 1966 Ludwig.
I asked that because the drumming thing,
Yeah.
people that drum and play guitar, I also think you have a certain style when they play rhythm.
Yeah, maybe
You
so. I
go
mean,
back, if you
I
go back
know.
and listen to drummers and guitar players, like listen to them and then go back and listen to rhythm.
Yeah.
It feels different,
It
you
could. It
know.
could. I don't know if there's a recognizable correlation, but I will say that it helps. I know Jeff Beck played a bit of drums and Townsend. Everybody loves to get on the kit. And I'm not a great drummer, but I can do certain things well. And some of my records are
Mhm.
actually me playing on. If it Ringo is my guy. In fact, I did a single where I recorded at Abbey Road last April, and I played all the instruments on it. And so you can find that. It's called "I'm in Love." It's a old John Lennon demo that never got released by the Beatles. Anyway, but I play enough to have fun, and I can start songs that way if I'm writing. But I prefer to work with great drummers. I'd rather be in a room with Rob Absharian or Mitch Marine or Simon Phillips or just did a session with Omar Hakim last week. He's pretty good. So it's
Oh
just
wow.
you want to be with the best you can be. But sometimes I'm the right guy, to be honest. Sometimes I'll have a particular feel that nobody else will be able to get with what I'm wanting to hear. So I wish
I think it's
I
better you know that though. You know what I mean? That you know what you want, you know to hear it, and you can get your hands on it. I think it makes
yeah.
for a better song for you.
It may just be that, but it's also nice to know enough about how to play another instrument to really be able to communicate with people that do it well. If you're trying to get something that maybe they're not doing naturally, but most cases for me, if I just let people in my band do what they do naturally, it's usually going to be better overall, whether it's specifically what I intended or not. It's
Yeah.
what they're going to do best, and that might serve the song in a better way. There's sometimes where I'll be very specific and be very picky and no, I need this actual thing. I just try not to overdo that to take away what will be the greater good.
And you can explain it better instead of like sounding like somebody's just
Yeah,
describing a sound that their car makes, so the mechanic.
exactly.
You can use a proper language. I
Pretty
do want to
much,
say,
yeah. Yeah, pretty
it's
much.
good. I just see a slight note here. I actually had on Pete Best from the Beatles.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Very, very cool.
so
He's
just
a
a
very
Beatles
sweet
nerd. I'm a
man.
Beatles nerd too. So I
Oh,
just
right
wanted to,
on.
I had to tell you that it was. Oh, I was going to say he is fantastic,
Really sweet guy,
But
yeah.
a very different drummer than Ringo.
Oh, no doubt. I
You know,
mean,
and
yeah.
I think Ringo made the band a different, allowed
Oh,
them to be different flavors than
it's unquestionable
than
that Ringo was really the catalyst for the next level. And Pete was fine, and he was such an
yeah.
important and integral part to the development of that
Oh,
band. It's
totally.
it's sad that it was such a hard cut when they split because it wasn't cool to him at all. It was really, really
He
a
got
horrible situation.
he was probably one of the first people who took a big beating. Like I remember, like yeah,
Oh, well,
even like
yeah.
like Megadeth, the Metallica thing before Dave Mustaine. It was Pete Best who's getting beat up because of that kind of stuff. He
Yeah.
actually finally got some money on the anthology. I talked to him, and he it was really
Yes.
the interview became more of a cathartic story about somebody. going from here to
Yeah.
there to finding themselves. He plays now with him and his brother play out, and they still have a band. They play out.
Yeah.
He
No,
has
I
a,
got,
he has a, in together, and he play.
yeah,
He's great.
I got to see him. They came through Dallas. Oh, it's been over 10 years ago, but I got to see him and I got to meet him and hang a little bit. Then I ran into him quite crazily. I was in South America. I was in Brazil
Mhm.
doing a clinic tour, and the promoter knew that I was a big Beatles fan. I said, "Oh, there's a Beatles show going on tonight, and Pete Best is going to be there." Are you kidding me? I'm in the middle. I'm in South America, and I'm crossing paths with Pete Best, and we got to hang for a minute. He was always very sweet, very kind, gentle
He
soul.
is sweet. He's a great drummer. So nothing negative about him. He's probably
Not
better
at
than
all.
most
Not
drummers.
not
Just
at all.
Ringo was
But
just different for that group of artists. I think is what it comes down to.
Ringo had a lot of swing to what he did, and he was just
Right.
more versatile. But he
Yeah.
brought a lot of joy to the feel of those songs, no doubt
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, he and
I
Paul
mean, he was
together.
the secret. He was the secret ingredient that really
Yes,
made him the next level. That allowed
he,
everyone else to be who they were. I think. And
hugely,
that
hugely.
and that super nerd level of Beatles. You can see behind me, just down low, you can see my Lego yellow submarine, and you can't see the picture.
Yes,
I have,
and
I have a, I have a George Harrison Lego portrait. So I'm a huge Beatles fan. Those
I
are my
love
first
it.
albums were the Beatles and Elvis Presley. Those are the albums I
Oh,
listened to
nice.
first.
There's a good foundation for you. Yeah,
It is.
very nice.
But I want to encourage people. This is a really beautiful album. I mean, it rocks. Like
Thank
it's
you.
like 50-50. It rocks and it's melody.
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
that's what I'm saying. It kind of feels like it's a little of everything you've done.
Yeah, I
You know,
think so.
it's probably a good album to say, hey, if you don't, be a fan of you, they don't know if I've ever heard you, go listen to this album.
Yeah,
This is probably
well,
a good start point because it has a little bit of has your
yeah,
melody, has some of your rock, they love everything in it.
there you go. All right then. I will go forward and tell people
I,
that.
I'm sure that
No, dude.
you'll forget it in 10 minutes.
No, 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 no.
I
I've
just
always,
think it's important that people that
yeah,
aren't familiar with you
sure.
know that there
Right
is so
on.
much for you across the board. You're not one dimensional. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, yeah, that's all good, man. Yeah, but that's just me. I was never concerned about being this specific artist per se, but I'm just a fan, and I'm a student, and I just want to keep evolving and keep doing what I do and try to keep improving. And so if there's people along the way that are listening to it, it's ultimately gratifying, and I'm just honored to still be doing what I set out to do when I was a little kid. Never imagined that I'd still be doing it,
Still
and
doing it. Well, I
yeah,
think you're
very happy.
fantastic, and I didn't want to
Thank you.
just. I know we talked before. You're like, "Oh, should I do another interview?" Like way back early on. I
I'm
wanted to,
glad we
but I
did.
didn't. I didn't have anything substantial to I talked to you about. I wanted to have something. You know what I mean? To
Yeah, for
really
sure.
to bend your ear about this album, and then we can kind of slide way off like I always do.
Sure.
But
Well, I love Sideways. Yeah, very
I know, but
good.
it's good to promote your album too. It's good. It has a double edge to it.
There you go.
People check out the album Recovery, and go to his page because he's got. You're in your third series of guitar, I believe, with Ibanez, right? I think you do pickups. You do like a billion different things right now
Yeah, that
for
there's a couple.
products.
There's a couple. The Keeley pedals, the Halo, and the Mark III driver. I've been really happy to collaborate for those. The old Ibanez AT100 is still available. The new
Hmm.
ATZ. This is more the type of guitar used on the Resolution record, but this is on Love is Greater Than Hate and Recovery. So it's a mahogany body version of my signature guitar with a rosewood board. So it's a bit more forward rock, like Les Paul kind of thing. Yeah, so there's all those things. Working on a signature amp with John Sir, so that's
Oh
coming
wow.
along. We're going to be working on that. Hopefully, get that out in the next year. So it's incredible to be at a place where I can have ideas about tones I want to go for, and then have these brilliant people with guitar companies, pedal companies, amp companies that are happy to try to bring those to fruition. It's like music in like for my whatever my art is. It starts off very selfish. This is just this thing that I want to hear. I want to get. The Halo pedal was the same way. It's just I need this device to do this sound that I'm looking for. And so, but the fact that if I
But isn't that the best success though for
it
you,
is
like, or anybody? If you
totally.
just every time a band tries to reproduce a hit song that they liked when they wrote it,
That's the
it's a
point. Yeah.
freaking nightmare. It's a nightmare, and everyone's just miserable. Even if they reproduce the sound, no
Yeah.
one's happy. But
Well,
if you do
that's
something you love, it's gonna be good,
it's what I
whether
learned
it's
in the
big or
Danger
not.
days. That in the Danger days, that was kind of chasing the tail of Bon Jovi and and Def Leppard, which was an admirable thing to do because it was successful music at the time. But
Hmm.
but by then you're just it. Even though I thought Danger really did have a nice original sound, thanks to Ted
Yeah,
Poley, the great singer. Long story
yeah.
short. but I recognize like this has nothing to do with what I want to do personally. You know, it was a great
Hmm.
experience, and I'm not bashing it because I got to do so many, childhood fantasy things with the different tours and making records and all that. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, but what do I really want out of life and a career? And that's what I've done ever since. So that's why you see all these different elements and different styles, and because I love it all. And I think if an artist is being true to themselves, they just need to do where the muse is taking them. I've said it a bunch about being a huge fan of Todd Rundgren. I don't love every record he puts out, but I love that he does it because I know.
I agree. I agree with that too. Actually,
And
I'm a
then,
fan of him.
yeah,
I can't love every album he does. I love
yeah,
Frank Zappa, but there's a few albums of Frank Zappa
of course.
I can't get into Thingfish. I'm gonna put it out there. I
That's
can't do Thingfish.
that's okay, and but that's the beauty of an artist and art in general, where it doesn't have to be the same thing. There's certain artists that will always have a record that we'll love more than everything else. Maybe it's Van Halen one or two for some people. Maybe it's for certain artists there's that one record. But and it's fantastic to love that much. But they got to keep going. They got to keep evolving, and that's what I loved about Jeff Beck so much is that he just kept changing and evolving and showing us, the way to lead a life as far as just don't rest on your laurels. Keep trying to improve, and that's what I hope to keep doing, man. So thanks for listening. I'm glad you dig the record. Yeah, maybe it is a good touchstone for start here, work your way
That's just
backwards.
me,
Yeah,
the
no, I
outside
appreciate it.
looking in, but
Yeah,
one person's opinion, one
no,
fan's opinion.
I appreciate it. That's all right.
So people check out the album. I'll put the links underneath the
Yeah,
show, like usual,
thanks,
and
Sean.
support him on his socials too, and subscribe to his
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
too, on all the stuff, man.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks for
Thank
watching,
you, brother.
everybody, and thank you, Sean, for taking the time. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna